Florida straw polls last Saturday. Yes, we thought we would do well, but we did not know that we were going to blow away the competition. But let me tell you what that margin of victory represented, not only in Florida, but in Georgia and every other state. Number one, it sent a message to the mainstream media and to the establishment that the voice of the people is more powerful than the voice of the media. And then the second message that is sent is that message is more powerful than money. Governor Romney, Governor Perry, they spent a considerable amount of money in order to try and influence the outcome of that straw poll. We rented a bus, drove around the state and talked to people, sharing with them our common sense solutions and 999 in order to get what you probably did. Some people call that old-time retail politics. I call it, that's the way you're supposed to get votes in the first place. Let people know how you feel. Let people know, coming from your heart, what you would do in order to represent them. And so, yes, that straw poll vote was a game changer. But we felt that it was going to happen. We just were not sure when or how. And I got to tell you, ever since last Saturday, a lot of people have taken note. There have been a lot of changes in terms of how the rest of the world sees this campaign. You and I have recognized this all along. You know, people like Ron Wallace and Dave McCleary, those were people who supported Herman Cain before it was cool. Give them a hand. Now we welcome all of this newfound support. Welcome aboard the Cain train. To the people who are with us from the beginning. You know, the founding fathers, they got it right. That's what this is all about. This whole race is about getting back to what the founding fathers figured out. They figured it out. They got it right. They put down their vision as something that we call the Declaration of Independence, converted it to something that we call the Constitution. 235 years ago, they knew that we would become the greatest nation in the world based upon that vision. So why do we need to mess it up? Let's get back to the vision of the founding fathers. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator, not the governments, not the presidents, not the politicians, their Creator, with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now you notice that the founding fathers said that among these, that meant that there might have been some others that they were thinking about, but they didn't articulate with life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I happen to believe that if you go back and look at some of those earlier documents, like the Federalist Papers, that one of those other unalienable rights that they were thinking about might have had something to do with the unalienable right to protect yourself, to protect your family, and to protect your property. We call it the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. They got it right. They were the founding fathers. And we need to be the defending fathers. Because Ronald Reagan used to describe this great nation, folks, as a shining city on a hill. Amen. A shining city on a hill. And that inspired all of us to believe in the philosophies of Reagan, because he kept this nation on the top of that hill. But within the last few years, this shining city on a hill has slid down the hillside, because we have an administration that has weakened our military. It has weakened our presence in the world. It has weakened our economy. And this is why you are here. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I happen to believe that we not only have the ability to take that shining city back to the top of the hill, I believe that we will take it back in November 2012. Here's how we're going to do it. We become a nation of crises. And we're going to fix these crises. We're going to fix stuff rather than continue to talk about stuff. We've become a nation of crises. We have an economic crisis. We got an entitlement spending crisis. We've got an energy crisis. We've got an illegal immigration crisis. We've got a foggy foreign policy crisis. We've got a moral crisis. And the biggest crisis that we have is a severe deficiency of leadership crisis, and we know how to fix that. My approach to dealing with all of these is exactly the same. And that is, make sure you start out working on the right problem. When I was a ballistics analyst with the Department of the Navy early in my career, I used to work on fire control systems. And our job was to figure out what rocket you use, what fire control system you use, what parameters do you put into the fire control system based upon research and analysis in order to be able to knock out the target. Well, let me tell you the first question that we had to answer whenever we did a ballistics analysis. Where's the target? It might seem like common sense, but if you didn't know where the target was, how were you going to hit it? Well, the same thing is true in business and in government. What's the problem? If you're not working on the right problem, you're not going to come up with the right solution. And so my approach in all of these is, make sure we're working on the right problem. Make sure we assign the right priority. Make sure that I surround myself with the right people. And that will allow us to put together the right plans in order to fix stuff instead of continuing to talk about how bad things are. Let's just apply this very simple approach, which every business person uses, to one example. The biggest domestic issue that's on the minds and hearts of everybody here, the economy. There's one economic guiding principle that you must understand if you're going to fix this economy. If you don't understand this basic economic principle, which this administration does not, you're never going to fix this economy. And that principle is the business sector is the engine of economic growth. It should that first. And like any engine, it needs fuel. You don't give it any fuel, it's not going anywhere. So here's the fuel that I want to put in this engine. Our economy is on life support. And the fuel that I have proposed is bold. We don't need some mild fuel in this engine. We need some bold fuel. And I call it my 9-9-9 plan. Why? It starts with, watch this, y'all. Throw out the current tax code. Throw it out, because many years, most of you all your life have been complaining about the tax code. We know that it's messed up, but nobody had the guts to say we need to throw it out. Now, once you throw it out, then we pass the 999 legislation. 9% business flat tax, 9% personal income flat tax, and a 9% national sales tax. It is called revenue neutral. What that means is it replaces the payroll tax, the capital gains tax, the death tax, and all corporate and personal income taxes. We collect them all with 999. It's simpler, it's fairer, and it saves us $430 billion a year in filing and compliance costs. 999. And whenever I describe this to the skeptics inside the Beltway, they always come back and say, well, Mr. Cain, that sounds all well and good, but you can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't do that? I'm going to be president. I can't do it as a candidate, but I can do it as a president. And they said, well, Mr. Cain, you see, you don't know how Washington works. And my response is, yes, I do. It doesn't. It doesn't work. Because you see, my whole idea is something that former Senator Eric Dirksen popularized when he said that when they feel the heat, meaning Congress, they will see the light. My job is to get Congress to give me that legislation. And you're going to be the heat to put on Congress and tell them that you like it, you understand it, and you're going to demand that we pass it. That's how we're going to pass it. For my administration, within the first 90 days. And this morning when I was on Chris Wallace's Fox News Sunday, thank you, they always like to try and trip you up. Well, it's going to be regressive on the poor. No, it's not. And Chris Wallace, with his sophisticated researchers for his TV program, they went and dug up some analysis that was done by the Christian Science Monitor and tried to basically shoot down my 999 plan. And I basically said, Chris, I don't know the assumptions that they made, but it looks like they didn't make the same assumptions that I made. So let's take my example. And I said, if you take the median income of a family of four, $50,000 a year, today, under the current code, they are going to pay approximately $10,000 in taxes if you include the payroll tax. Under the 999 plan, that second nine, they're going to pay $4,500. It's simple arithmetic. That leaves another $5,500 to help pay your sales tax. Now, if you take all of the money that they have left over and they pay sales tax on every dollar, which meant that they bought all new stuff with the rest of the money, they would still have $2,000 left over after the 999. It's not regressive on the poor. It puts money in the pocket of the poor. You notice this microphone system keeps going out on me. Maybe it's because I don't have a teleprompter. It doesn't. Maybe if it had a teleprompter, it could feel at home. So the 999 plan, folks, is bold, but it'll work. And it starts with throwing out the current tax code. Look, our economy is not only an economic imperative, it is a national security imperative. Because all of the other things you want to argue about, all of the other priorities that we have. If we do not get this economy growing the way that it can grow, all of those other discussions are mute. The good news is our economy has the ability to grow at a robust rate. And we can do that. But you got to understand what is the economic engine of it, and that is the business sector. And that's why within the first 90 days, I'm going to ask Congress to send me that legislation, because the American people and the 14 million people that are out of work, they can't keep waiting. And if $1 trillion didn't stimulate this economy, another $450 billion isn't going to do anything differently, which is what the president is proposing. And so take every one of those crises. Time does not permit for me to go through every one of them, but I use the same approach. What is the problem? What priorities should we set? Surround myself with the right people. That's what successful business people do. That's what I have done all of my career. If I had not surrounded myself with good people, I never would have been able to do the things that I've been able to achieve, because I didn't achieve it by myself. I achieved it with a team of people around me that believed as I believed, and who knew how to figure out, well, what is the right problem, and how do we solve that problem? Let's do one other one before we start signing some books. We got a lot of books to sign today. We're gonna have to go real fast, y'all, okay? Well, let's take another example. Foreign policy. I have been criticized for not having extensive foreign policy experience. You know? Does the guy we have there now? At least I have an approach to foreign policy. I have a philosophy, and my philosophy is an extension of the Reagan philosophy. Reagan believed peace through strength.
Yes.
Let me tell you what the Cain doctrine is. The Cain doctrine is peace through strength and clarity. We must clarify who our friends are. We must clarify who our friends are. Clarify who our enemies are, and stop giving money to our enemies. When I was in Israel in August, I had the opportunity to sit down with the Deputy Prime Minister of Israel. And it was a very chilling conversation. To sit and listen to him describe what it's like to live in the part of the world where most of your neighbors are your enemies. And one of the things that he said during that conversation that will always stick with me, two things actually. First, with all of the tension in the Middle East, Israel will defend itself. Secondly, and he said, Mr. Cain, unfortunately, we do not know how this administration will react, and we are not sure where this administration stands in terms of their support of Israel. And I said to him, I said, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, based upon my knowledge of our relationship over the years, I can tell you what the relationship will be for the Cain administration. And I'm going to use an old Southern expression. And if you don't quite understand it, I will interpret it for you. But it's an old Southern expression in a Cain administration. If you mess with Israel, you're messing with the United States of America. The Deputy Prime Minister said in his accent, Mr. Cain, I think I understand. Our enemies need to know who our friends are. Yeah. And our enemies need to be clear that we are going to stand with our friends. Yeah. That's my foreign policy approach. There are three things that we got to do, folks, in order to make sure that this happens. I think we've got the attention of the rest of the world now. We've got the attention of the media. It's about time. But we got their attention now. But we're not going to sit back on our laurels. We're going to continue to work hard. But here are the three things I need you to do. Because I can't do this by myself. I'm here today. We're getting the visibility today because of you. And here are the three things that we got to do in order to make sure that we get this across the finish line. Number one, stay informed. Yes. Know the issues. Yes. Know the facts. Be able to explain 999 when they try to tell you that it is regressive on the poor. No, it's not. And when they try to play that class warfare card, don't let them play that class warfare card. That's why you need to be informed, not only about that, but also exactly where we stand and I stand on all the other issues. Stay informed. Because as you know, stupid people are running America. But we got to save the savable. Secondly, stay involved. Do you know that if a liberal came out here and saw the size of this crowd, their head would explode? They figured that you'd be home watching football, drinking an adult beverage, but instead you came out to support somebody who is a patriot, who wants to change what's going on in Washington, D.C. Stay involved. And then number three, stay inspired. They want you to believe that we can't do this. But your presence here today shows that we can do this. And when you come out to events like this, you inspire me, and you inspire my entire staff, and you inspire my family. When I first made the decision to run for president, my wife thought I had lost my rabbit mind. Now today, she is my biggest supporter. Why? Because she recognizes the imperative that we have in this upcoming election. And my inspiration to do this really started 12 years ago when my first grandchild was born. 12 years ago when my first grandchild was born and I looked into that little face, the first thought that went through my mind wasn't, what do I do to give her a good start in life? The first thought that went through my mind was quite simply, what do I do to make this a better nation and a better world? And that's my question to you. What are you going to do to make this a better nation and a better world? Because it is up to us. Because you see, it's not about us, folks. It's about the grandchildren. That's what this is about. It was the giver again, who reminded us about this very fragile thing we call freedom. When he said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You can't pass it on in the bloodstream. It must be fought for. It must be protected. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our grandchildren what the United States of America used to be like when men were free. I'm not going to have that conversation with my grandkids. And I don't think you want to have that conversation with your grandkids. With your help, we can defy the odds. With your help, you can send a problem solver to the White House in November 2012. With your help, we will be able to take that shining city on the side of the hill and push it back to the top of the hill where it belongs. Help me put